Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wolfpacker Show. My name's Ethan McDowell. I am your host, and I am joined today by Noah Fleischman, our co-host on the Wolfpacker Show. We're here to preview NC State's marquee matchup against Tennessee in Charlotte's Bank of America Stadium, 7:30 p.m. kickoff Saturday, broadcast on ABC, the A1 TV slot of the weekend. It's a huge game. It's a huge matchup for the Pack, a chance to assert themselves as ACC contenders, as college football playoff contenders. All of NC State's goals are right in front of them right now, and that starts with this Saturday. And it is going to be a really fun game to watch. Two teams that have a lot of lofty goals that are going to learn a lot about themselves when they take the field in Charlotte this weekend. We're going to dive into a full-length preview on this game. We're going to talk about Tennessee. We're going to talk about NC State. We're going to talk about how those teams match up. But before we do that, I want to say just a quick housekeeping note here. We are both writers for the Wolfpacker.com. That is NC State's site on the On3 network, the fastest-growing college football, recruiting, basketball website out there. Whether you're looking for premium recruiting scoops on the Wolfpack, let me tell you, they are bringing in a stacked group of recruits to this game. And if you're looking for team analysis, a scouting report on Tennessee, predictions for this game, we're going to talk about it all today, but then we get way more in depth on it on the Wolfpacker.com. So go check it out right now. You can get an annual subscription for 50% off. So it doesn't get much better than that. It's a great deal. It comes out to, I believe, just under $5 a month. And that will be billed annually. So it's a great deal. Go check it out on the Wolfpacker.com. Noah, let's talk about some football. It's week 2. NC State is 1-0 after pulling away from Western Carolina late, using a 21-0 fourth quarter to pull away from the Catamounts. And Tennessee also 1-0. They defeated Chattanooga 69-3. A absolute drubbing of the Mocs. A dominant win that sets up for a top 25 matchup. Tennessee is number 14 in the Associated Press poll. NC State fell one spot or held steady, I guess, at number 24. So, Noah, I want to get your initial thoughts on this matchup between NC State and Tennessee.
Yeah, this is an opportunity for NC State to really make a statement. And this is a team that has big aspirations, and it's their first big test. So I think this is an exciting game to see where this team is, offensively and defensively against a really good Tennessee team, which we'll talk all about here. But overall, the vibes are good. Exciting game. NC State sold out its ticket allotment for the game, so we'll expect a lot of red in the crowd. And we'll see what uniform they decide to roll with, but wouldn't be surprised to see red.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. I'm just excited to see what's real, Like, it was week 1 last week, and it's possible that, the concerns with Grayson McCall's accuracy at points, that could be just a one-game blip. It's possible that the run blocking issues, again, were just a one-game blip. That's all possible. You can't really take that much away from an FCS game in week 1. Those two things, it's hard to take huge sweeping takeaways from. You do learn a lot about a team when you see them play a ranked SEC squad. This will be a great test for NC State. We're going to see where this team is at. We're going to see how fast this team can gel. Dave Dorn has talked about it this week. I think Tony Gibson has too. They have so many new starters defensively. You have so many new faces on the offense as well. Like, there's just this is like 42 new players on the roster this year, and they did not click instantly. I think that's safe to say. They did not click instantly against Western Carolina. Can they make the leap from week 1 to week 2? We'll see. But I think it's going to take a near perfect game for NC State to win this game, and let's talk about why. Let's talk about some keys to the game, Noah. I'll start us off here. If you look at how fast Tennessee plays, it's pretty much unlike any other team you'll see out there. The closest comparisons I think you can use is some of like the Big 12 offenses in the 2010s. And that's convenient because Tony Gibson has a lot of experience coaching against those offenses and how fast they used to operate and, putting up like 60 points per game and I always think back to the Baker Mayfield Patrick Mahomes duel where they both went off and had just posted ridiculous numbers. But I think Tennessee is just the evolved version of those explosive offenses. And NC State's going to have to deal with that defensively. And the key part of that is, hey, one of Dave Dorn's favorite buzzwords, they need to play complementary football, right? But the first thing they have to do is give the defense time to breathe. The offense needs to keep the defense fresh. They can't afford many 3-and-outs in this game. Tennessee runs the ball well enough. They led the SEC in rushing offense last year with over 200 yards per game. They lead. They run the ball with consistent enough production that they could control the clock if NC State is not able to sustain drives of their own. The Pack has a deep rotation, right? They can rotate 4 to 5 cornerbacks, 7 to 8 defensive linemen, 5 to 6 linebackers, and 3 to 4 safeties and 2 nickels. Like, that is probably the deepest defense NC State's ever had. But at the end of the day, the defense needs the offense to help itself out there. It cannot be one of those games that we've seen in the past couple of years where the defense, it is asking too much for the defense to put the Wolfpack on its back in this game. I think, man, I just don't see that going well if that's how the game script ends up turning out. I think the defense will be able to hold its own. At this point, I fully trust Tony Gibson to come up with a great game plan against any opponent. But the offense has to put itself in a position where the defense is not asked to do too much. So I think that's one of my main keys to the game, Noah. What do you got?
Yeah, it's going to come down to the offensive and defensive lines. Dave Dorn's talked about it enough. This game's going to be one there. Tennessee is the best defensive line they're going to see all year, and that's a fact. James Pierce is one of the best defensive ends in the country. He's going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft when that's time to come around in April. And I think that this is a big test for NC State's offensive line. They struggled, as we talked about, in the run game last week, but they did well in pass protection. And that's going to need to come back again this week against this defensive line that if NC State struggles, it's going to be a long day for Grayson McCall. He's going to be running for his life. He's going to have to make plays happen on his own, which he can do, but it'd be difficult to do it every single play. Anthony Belton's got a big game, and I think that's what it's going to come down to, the matchup between James Pierce and Anthony Belton of who wins that. Probably has a decent chance to win the game because if Belton wins, it means NC State's offense has a chance to keep pace with Tennessee's offense. If Pierce wins that battle more often than not, then it's going to be, as I said, a long day. And as Tony Gibson said, it's going to get ugly. And I think they could get ugly on both sides of the ball if they don't execute and do their job. So that's the big takeaway we've heard, I guess, all week. When we talk to offensive linemen, we talk to Dave Dorn, we talk to Tony Gibson. It's all about doing their job. Communicating is going to be big as well, just especially on defense with Tennessee running plays as fast as possible. Tennessee ran 90 plays against Chattanooga. NC State ran, I believe, 70. Around 70.
I think.
Yes. So that's 15 more plays. That's a lot of plays. That's like, in the grand scheme of things, that adds up. And NC State is going to have to either try to run a gun with them, or I think there's another opportunity. And with my last key of the game, slow it down. NC State huddles an offense, which not a lot of teams do. And I think they're going to try to use that to their advantage. Take the clock where they can get it. And their best defense, maybe just keeping Nico off the field. He can't score points on the bench. And I think that might be a way for NC State to win game. But when you have a long drive, you need to have a touchdown on the end of it. And that's going to be something to watch. If they can get a long drive and score, that's great. There was a drive against Western Carolina, 13 plays, like 8 minutes, and it ended in a field goal. So points are good, but they're going to have to end in 7 points if NC State wants to hang with Tennessee.
I agree. And I think both of our keys to the game have revolved around controlling the ball, right? That's so tough to do if you can't run the ball. And I mean, just look at the numbers from last week. Before that fourth quarter, they were averaging 3.4 yards per carry, 79 total rushing yards against an FCS team. That has to improve if they're going to beat Tennessee. Like, there is no way NC State can beat Tennessee, in my opinion, without having a consistent rushing attack. You're just not going to be able to keep the ball long enough. And I mean, it's possible the line could take a leap forward from what we saw, but I think that is a huge question mark because if they come out and play like they did against Western Carolina, it's going to be hard for NC State to compete in this game, in my opinion. It's I fully believe in Jordan Waters as a running back. I thought he showed off some great tough runs, but the reason he really got going in the fourth quarter was because NC State's offensive line eventually just wore down Western Carolina, right? That's not going to happen against Tennessee, or it's going to be a lot more difficult to make that happen against the Volunteers. They're way more talented, way more deep. So that's going to be a huge test. And that is one of my biggest question marks for this game, and one of the reasons that I am overall not very confident going into this matchup and in NC State's chances. Again, another key to the game for me, it just revolves around making layups. First play of the game, dropped pick 6 by Caden Fordham. If he picks that off and takes it to the house, does the game go completely differently? Is it never close? You can't live in if, ands, or buts land, but I mean, that's a potential game-changing play right there. And then the second play was another dropped interception. So 2 potential, momentum shifters right there. And then if you account for the fact that, Grayson McCall threw for 318 yards and 3 touchdowns, that's a good day. I'd say based on NC State's last couple years of quarterback play, that'd be an outstanding day. But when you take into account that there were quite a few throws where it was behind the receiver, ahead of the receiver. Sometimes, Noah Rogers or KC were adjusting and making good grabs to save those plays. But then sometimes they weren't. Like there was a ball on a post route to Keenan Jackson that if it was within reach, he was taking that to the house. There were multiple other plays where if Grayson McCall hit the receiver in stride, that it would have been a huge 50-plus yard gain or a touchdown. And we talked on the last episode about how Grayson McCall has such a history of pinpoint accuracy. That's not something we're really worried about necessarily, but he needs those opportunities will happen less against Tennessee than they did against Western Carolina. Those opportunities for huge explosive plays. And Grayson McCall and the receivers need to make the most of those opportunities. If they can, and the defense takes opportunities, takes advantage of, the occasional freshman mistake by Nico, or I don't know, the ball hitting the ground on a fumble or something like that, right? A blown blocking protection or something like that. Just they have to take advantage of the opportunities they get because you can get away with not hitting on some of those against Western Carolina. You're not going to be able to get away with that against Tennessee. So we'll see how that all unfolds there. Noah, any other keys to the game, path to victory maybe for NC State against the Volunteers?
Yeah, it's going to come from Tony Gibson. To beat Nico, I think it's going to come down to one thing, and it's going to be confusing him. It's only his 3rd career start. He's a all-world talent, number 1 quarterback in the class of 2023. I mean, this is a guy that obviously can play football. We've seen him. He threw for 300 yards in one half of football last week. He's obviously an elite talent. The only thing he really lacks is experience. And that could come up big in a game like this. One where Tony Gibson could be able to confuse him. NC State's good at showing looks and dropping coverage or showing looks and playing off the same look. Sometimes they'll come, sometimes they won't. Sometimes it'll come from one side one time, the other side another time. Tony Gibson is good at toying with quarterbacks. And I think he's going to try to cook up a game plan to where he can do that. Don't know if it will be successful.
Yeah.
But he wants to test Nico and see what happens. And I would not be surprised to see blitzing early to try to rattle a redshirt freshman quarterback playing in front of a hostile crowd for the first time in his career. He played in the Citrus Bowl, which was down in Florida and Orlando last year against Iowa. Played well, ran for 3 touchdowns. Then played at home last week against Chattanooga. First time he's going to be in front of a very loud crowd of NC State fans, of any opposing team's fans for the most part, in a game that matters. And I think that could be interesting. And also game pressure could get to him too. If this is a 1-score game in the 4th quarter, how does he respond? And I think NC State will want to use that to their advantage too. Don't know. He could step up and just be a Heisman candidate after this game, which
Yeah.
I would not be surprised. If he goes out there, throws for 303 touchdowns again, you're going to see him Heisman candidate for sure. So I think the unknown is something that NC State could try to use to its advantage with the redshirt freshman quarterback. Probably the youngest quarterback we're going to see all year. We'll see what they can do with it. But it all comes down to execution at the end of the day. If they don't execute, as you said, it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to win the game.
Yeah, let's talk some more about the Tennessee signal caller. I mean, I followed his recruitment coming out of high school because obviously On3 had him as the number one overall prospect in the country. Nico Iamaleava. I apologize to Nico if I butchered the pronunciation there, but I think that's right. 6'6" quarterback, has a cannon for an arm, was like a superstar volleyball player in high school too. Just like an overall elite athlete. And it's easy to see why Tennessee fans are so excited about him. He has I think the fifth best Heisman odds right now. You mentioned him emerging as a Heisman contender after this game. Like the betting odds already think he is. And that Tennessee offense, it's like you plug in a good quarterback and the offense goes burr. Like it's a system ready made to produce a Heisman candidate. Really, Josh Heupel does a good job out there. Engineering explosive plays, engineering productive passing offenses. Really, the only weakness I could find in that small sample size, and you mentioned it, is pressuring the quarterback. So he has dropped back to pass 61 times in 2023. Teams got pressure on him on 21 of those snaps. And when he was under pressure, he completed 2 of 8 passes for 42 yards, and his yards per attempt was all the way down at 5.3. He also took 7 sacks, and 6 of those were in his lone start of the 2023 season against Iowa, another really, really good defense. Now, given they destroyed Iowa in that game. So even though the pressure seemed to get to him at times, he still did enough to win comfortably. He rushed for 3 touchdowns in that game, right? So I think he is a really, really good quarterback. And the only weaknesses we might see from him are those youthful ones, the ones that are a result of him not having that experience. Like you said, the unknown aspects of how he will deal with being in a high pressure, spotlight all on him type of game, how he'll deal with having more pressure in his face for probably all 60 minutes of this game. Because if you don't get pressure on him, he showed what he's going to do. Again, Chattanooga didn't even try to blitz him. They blitzed him on 6 dropbacks, and he just picked them apart. He threw for 303 yards and 3 touchdowns when in a clean pocket. And when he faced pressure on 4 dropbacks, and he completed 1 of 2 passes for 11 yards. Again, that's a super, super small sample size. But really, I mean, you can go look. He does not have many weaknesses. There's a reason why he was considered an elite quarterback prospect coming out of high school. And I think he's going to be tough to stop. I think it's going to be tough to deal with. And I think the defensive line is going to have to be really, really disruptive. It's a explosive unit. I really liked what we saw out of all 3 of the starters. Really, I thought Travali, Price, Brandon Cleveland, and Davin Van all had good games against Western Carolina. They just couldn't. The stats don't necessarily reflect that because Western Carolina was getting the ball out so quickly that there weren't many tackle for loss opportunities, and their running back had 7 carries, so it's not like they were getting opportunities to blow up the run. So we mentioned there's a lot of unknowns with Nico. There's a lot of unknowns with this new Wolfpack defensive line and defense in general because last game was such a weird game. Western Carolina, I thought, came out with a pretty good game plan to kind of pick them apart at points. And it's going to be interesting. Let's switch to the other side of the ball real quick before we dive into some predictions, Noah. I want to talk about James Pierce. What a player. I mean, just a dominant edge rusher. Also from Charlotte, went to high school with KC Concepcion and Hollywood Smothers. They won a state championship and played in another, I believe. I know, shocker, the team with 3 huge playmakers made a couple state championship games. But Noah, you talked about him a little earlier in the show. He's really, really good.
It's a way to say it. I mean, yeah, he's really, really, really good. I mean, last year was his breakout year. 24 total tackles, which included 14 for a loss and 8.5 sacks. And this is a guy who only started 3 games for the Vols last year en route to first team All SEC honors. Breakout year. The year before he didn't play much and had pedestrian, numbers, but that's kind of the evolution of a college football player. He's a guy he is a player. Preseason All-American in basically every All-American list you can find. You're going to see James Pierce Jr. You're going to look at mock drafts. You're going to find his name on there. Like, this is a guy who is an NFL player today. If you took him at Bank of America Stadium and left him there for a week and put him on the Carolina Panthers, pretty sure he'd play pretty well. Might play better than most of the Carolina Panthers team. Just saying honestly. I mean, he's that good. So, not to take a shot at Carolina Panthers, but I mean, it's kind of
that was a pretty clear shot at the Carolina Panthers, man. I don't know.
But yeah, he's really good talent. I mean, this is gonna be the best player on defensive line that NC State sees. In the regular season at least. If we can't look down the road in the postseason, whether it's a bowl game or a college football playoff, what they'll see. But it's a good player, and it's gonna be a big test for Anthony Belton. I know we're writing stuff about that and the matchup. It's gonna be all talked about this week on Wolfpacker.com, and this could make or break Anthony Belton's first round draft buzz earlier in the year. He plays well against a first rounder. Anthony Belton will shoot up the first round mock board. Mocked at number 32 in the preseason mock draft by ESPN. We could see him easily rise into the 20s if he shuts down James Pierce. It's going to be a hard thing to do. You're not asking him to shut down James Pierce. You're asking him to limit what James Pierce can do because there's really no stopping him per se. He's not going to finish the game with 0 tackles. I'll tell you that right now. But you want him to finish the game with 0 sacks, 0 TFLs. That's where the game will be won. And NC State gave up 9 TFLs against Western.
Yeah. I think there's very legitimate reason to be concerned about how James Pierce could wreck this game. He lines up on both sides, pass rushers from both sides. So Belton and Jacarius Peak will get reps against him most likely. Last year, he posted a 91.9 pass rushing grade, according to PFF. That ranked number 5 nationally amongst pass rushers that played at least 100 rushing snaps. And that's pretty impressive. He's really good, and he's going to be tough to deal with. I think that is going to be a very difficult matchup. But like you said, Anthony Belton's supposed to be a first-round tackle too. Let's see how he rises up to that challenge. This could be a I am here moment for Anthony Belton, and we'll see. Like you said, we talked to Anthony this week. He's not focused on the individual matchups. We tried. We asked. He's not focused on that, or at least wasn't telling us that he is. He's just focused on doing what he can to help the Pack win. But that's where all the NFL scouts are going to be watching. They're going to be watching that battle. That's where our eyes will be fixed as well. All right. Before we give out our predictions for today, Noah, I want to talk about how important this game is outside of NC State. The ACC's perception. There's a lot of weight on NC State's shoulders here. So far, there's been mixed results in terms of ACC and SEC teams playing. There's been the highs for the ACC. Miami absolutely blowing out Florida. That was an impressive game. And there's the other end of the spectrum. Virginia Tech losing to Vanderbilt, a game where they were favored by, I think, 2 scores. So it's been a mixed bag so far. And this is a huge opportunity because for recruiting, it's a huge opportunity for just your national resume when it comes to college football playoff time. And it's just a huge game for national perception of NC State football in general. We talk a lot about NC State's brand as a football program, and it feels like it's been gradually going up over the past 4 or 5 years, I would say. I think that's pretty safe to say. You beat Tennessee, and boom, you're on a clear upward trajectory. You are headed for the skies. So I think this is a huge game, and NC State, I'm sure Jim Phillips is pretty invested in this game. He wants to see NC State pick up a big win over an SEC program. Noah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's big. I mean, we also didn't mention Clemson laying an egg at Georgia. I mean, any team that played Georgia probably look like that from the ACC right now. I mean, Miami might be the only team that would put up a fight, but it is what it is. This is a big game, though. I mean, if NC State can keep it close, I think it's a win for the ACC. If NC State wins the game, the ACC might try to take a victory lap with it because you know what? It's a big win for them on national television. ABC, Reese Davis, Kirk Herbstreit, Holly Rowe, all in the call. Big opportunity, big stage, big platform for the ACC. NC State's obviously not worried about what the ACC thing is thought of at this moment, but I think they're well aware of that this could not only change perception of NC State football this year, but the ACC could be said, you know what? We're here to play. You know, some teams aren't, but, you know, some teams are. And I think that's what NC State needs to do. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of time, a lot of game time between now and then. You know, 3 hours of game time between where we talk about this on Sunday. But I think it definitely weighs a lot on the Atlantic Coast Conference because some people like to call it the average Coast Conference. And we'll see if NC State can disprove that or not.
All right, let's dive into predictions. We're going to talk about who we think is going to lead the Wolfpack in several major statistical categories. And then we're going to dive into our final score predictions. Noah, let's start with rushing. Again, we talked about it. It was a weird rushing day for NC State. They really struggled for the first 3 quarters. And by the end, you look down at the box score, and Jordan Waters has tied his career high with 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Box score does not really tell the whole story, but they ended up having a solid day at the end of the day on the ground. Do you think Jordan Waters is going to lead the team in rushing again?
No, I'm going to go with somebody else. We talked to Todd Gogol, NC State's running backs and special teams coach. He talked about the 3 running backs they lean on most: Jordan Waters, Hollywood Smothers, Kendrick Raphael. He doesn't look at any of them as a backup. He said he's got 3 starters, and they'll play depending on who's playing well, who's running the ball well. We'll play. I think in this game, if things aren't going well early, they're going to make a change. Hollywood Smothers ran the ball extremely well in the first half. 25-yard run, but he only got 10 snaps total. I think he leads the team in rushing against his former high school teammate on the other side, in his hometown, in the stadium he grew up watching the Carolina Panthers play. Give me Hollywood Smothers.
You know, I'm with you if we said all-purpose yards. I think Hollywood will have a big kick return. I think he'll have a field-flipping kick return that could really change the momentum of this game and make things exciting because it was a mixed bag for him in the season opener in terms of kick returning. He had one that was really impressive that he brought it out of the end zone and got to the 30-something yard line. And I thought he looked really, really impressive and explosive, great vision on that kick return. And the other one, it was one a little deeper into the end zone that he should have stayed in the end zone, didn't, and got tackled at the 17, I believe. So, yeah, I think he definitely has the potential to be a game changer on special teams and offensively. I like that pick. I like the homecoming angle there, too. That would be a lot of fun if he could have a huge game. And I'm sure the Pack certainly wouldn't complain. I'm sticking with Jordan Waters. I think they're going to need someone that can pick up tough yards because this is going to be a tough defense to run against. I'll talk about it more when I share my final score prediction. I think it's going to be a tough rushing day for NC State, and I don't think anyone will eclipse 100 yards, and it'll be a bit of a struggle in that area unless the offensive line takes a huge step forward from what we saw against Western Carolina, which is possible. Again, it was week 1. We'll see. But for now, I think it's going to be a struggle to get stuff going on the ground, but I do think Jordan Waters will lead the team. Receiving-wise, believe it or not, KC Concepcion led the team in receiving. He had 14 targets. The next closest wide receiver was Justin Jolie and Dakari Collins with 5 apiece. And he caught 9 of them for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns. Noah, KC's really good. I think he showed that he has firmly avoided the sophomore slump. What are you expecting out of NC State's wide receiver core in this game? Who's going to lead the team?
First of all, they're going to need a big game from a lot of people. I don't think this is a game they can give KC 14 targets and the next closest 6. I mean, it could work, but like those 6 targets better be caught by whoever's getting 6 targets outside of KC. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a game where multiple receivers need to go. KC's obviously going to be one of them. Noah Rogers is going to have to turn it on. Wesley Grimes probably. Justin Jolie at the tight end, at the flex wide tight end position is probably going to need to have a big game too. But I'll rock with I'm going to stick with the hometown flavor. We're going to go with KC Concepcion, have another big game. And if he catches a multi-touchdown game against the Volunteers, he will tie Torrey Holt's record of most multi-touchdown games at NC State. He will have done it in 15 games. Torrey Holt did it in 38.
pretty
This
good
might
company.
start the whole trajectory of, is KC Concepcion the best wide receiver to play at NC State? I kind of made that little analogy last year. You thought I was crazy, but if he can tie the record that in less than half the time, this man might be the best to do it, but he's got to do it first. But give me KC Concepcion to lead the team again.
Yeah, we've got a lot of KC to watch before his Wolfpack career is over. But if last game was any indication of what's to come this season for him, then yes, he will be on his way to cementing himself in the history of this program. I think it's most likely he is going to lead the team in receiving, but I'm going with who I thought was probably the most impressive player of last week's game, other than KC, Justin Jolie. I thought he was great against Western Carolina. And he has a history against Tennessee. When he played for UConn last year, they played the Vols. It was a 59-3 loss, but he caught 8 passes for 89 yards. He had a really successful day against them. And I think inside receivers is the way to go, just in general, for picking who's going to lead the team in receiving. Tennessee plays a young secondary. They might have a true freshman guarding KC or guarding Jolie. And, it's Tennessee. It's a talented freshman. Whoever they're putting out there is a talented former 4 or 5-star recruit, but still inexperienced. And Justin Jolie showed he is a very experienced player who he caught 5 for 75 in his Wolfpack debut. And that didn't count a long touchdown pass that got called back for an illegal man downfield penalty. So why not? Why can't he lead the team? Why can't he get over 100 yards and help lead the pack and lead what I think is going to be a game where NC State will have to rely on Grayson McCall and the rest of that passing offense to kind of carry the offense. All right, one more prediction. Let's talk about tackling. Last week, it was a tackle by committee type of deal for the pack. 3 players, Aiden White, Donovan Kaufman, and Jalen Parker, recorded 7 total tackles to lead the team. With Caden Fordham out and just the weird way that game went, it's a weird game when your corner is co-leading the team in tackles and leading the team in solo tackles. But Noah, who is your pick to lead NC State in tackles this game?
I'm good with Caden Fordham. He got ejected in the first 5 plays of the game for targeting. I think he should come out with a purpose, try and make up for that a little bit. And I don't think he's going to drop a pick 6 if it happens again. So, give me Caden Fordham to lead the team in tackles. Is it going to be a Peyton Wilson 13 tackle day? No. But 8, 9 tackles, that'll do it. So, give me Caden Fordham.
I'm going to go with Donovan Kaufman. He's one of the players on this team that is no stranger to SEC football. He played at Vanderbilt and Auburn. And I thought he showed promise. And he is a physical safety that loves playing in the box, loves contact. And with how many screens and just how Tennessee stretches the field horizontally in general and vertically, there's going to be a lot of responsibility on NC State's DBs to make plays in space. And I trust him to do that because he has shown he has been able to do that at the SEC level before. So I'll pick him to lead the team in tackles here. All right, Noah, let's wrap up with our final score predictions. I'm going to go first because we'll end on a positive note with your prediction. I think NC State is not quite ready for this game. I want to be very clear. I think this is a 10-win NC State team. I am not wavering on my preseason 10-win prediction. I just think this is going to be one of the 2 losses. I think Tennessee might be the best team NC State has played in the past couple of seasons. Notre Dame and Clemson 2 years ago are really the only competition there. I think that this is a game that if it was later in the season, once this team has meshed a little bit more, maybe NC State pulls it off or at least keeps it really, really close. I just think this is going to be a game where Tennessee I could see it playing out. Could see it playing out similarly to Notre Dame last year, where it is close for 3.5 quarters. But I think eventually the Tennessee offense will tire out the NC State defense. I don't think the NC State offense will be perfect like it probably needs to be in this game. And I haven't seen anything that indicates that there's going to be some huge leap in the rushing production from last week to this week. For that reason, I'm picking NC State to drop this one, unless they can take a big step forward, running the ball, and like I said earlier in the show, controlling the tempo of this game. That is so hard to do against Tennessee. It is not a disparaging remark to say that NC State's going to struggle in that area, because most defenses struggle in that area. But I do expect NC State to drop this one, and I'm picking a final score of 41-28 with a late score by Tennessee to cement their victory.
Me, on the other hand, I think NC State's going to come to play. I think they're going to rise to the occasion and play up to the level that Tennessee can play. I think this is a game that NC State knows it needs to win, knows it needs to make up for a pretty pedestrian game they played against Western Carolina a week ago. So with that, I'm going to go with a walk-off field goal to win at 38-37 for NC State. I think they just rise to the occasion, get it done. They know they need to get it done. They've kind of had a focused work week at practice from what we've heard from the players. They're confident. I don't think they're worried about what number is next to another team's name. They've got a number next to theirs too, obviously. And I think they can come out and find a way to pull it out and get a program-defining win in the Dave Doran era. I think this has the opportunity to be one of Dave Doran's biggest wins at NC State.
Heck yeah, it would be. It'd be huge if they can pull that off. It is a shoot. My expectations go through the roof. If they pull off this game Saturday, then anything is possible for this NC State team. Pretty much. We'll see how it goes. Again, this is why you play the game, right? This is the moments you live for. Is huge. Consequential non-conference games and a big stage, and it's going to be really exciting, folks. So thank you all for watching today and listening on your podcast platforms. We'll be back Sunday to talk about how the game went, and we will see you all then. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.